Once upon a time, Lara was spending her weekend at Gran's cozy house. Lara loved visiting Gran because every visit was full of fun and surprises. Today, they had decided to bake a bread together. Lara was excited because she had never baked bread before. "Today, we're going to make the yummiest bread ever," Gran announced with a big smile. They put on their aprons, looking like a super baking team. First, they gathered all they needed: flour, water, yeast, and a pinch of salt. Gran showed Lara how to measure the flour carefully. "We need to be exact, so our bread will be just right," Gran explained. Lara nodded, carefully scooping flour into the measuring cup. Then they mixed the yeast with warm water. "It's like a tiny magic potion for our bread," Lara giggled, watching the yeast dissolve. They mixed everything in a big bowl. Lara's hands got all sticky as she helped knead the dough. "It feels funny," she laughed. Gran smiled. "That's how you know you're doing it right." After the dough was ready, they left it in a warm spot to rise. "Now we wait," Gran said as they cleaned up. Lara was beaming with joy. She was baking bread with Gran, and it was the best day ever. Part 1 of their cozy bread day was off to a wonderful start. After waiting a while, Lara and Gran went back to check on their dough. "It's time to see if our dough has grown big and strong," Gran said with a twinkle in her eye. When they peeked under the cloth, Lara's face glowed with excitement. The dough had puffed up like a fluffy cloud. "Wow, it's magic!" Lara exclaimed. "Now we shape it," Gran explained. They sprinkled flour on the table so the dough wouldn't stick. Gran showed Lara how to gently press and stretch the dough into a loaf shape. Lara tried her best to imitate Gran, pushing and patting the dough. "It's like playing with the biggest piece of Play-Doh ever," Lara giggled. Together, they placed their shaped dough into a baking tin, covering it again to let it rise a little more. "It needs one more nap before it's ready to bake," Gran said, winking at Lara. In the meantime, Gran suggested they draw pictures of their baking adventure. Lara grabbed her crayons and began to draw, filling her paper with images of floury smiles and a big, round loaf of bread. Gran joined in, drawing a whimsical oven with tiny bread loaves dancing around it. They laughed and shared stories, enjoying this special moment together. Part 2 showed Lara that baking wasn't just about eating yummy bread, but about the fun and love shared while making it. After their drawing fun, Lara and Gran checked on the bread again. "It was time to bake. Our bread is ready for its big moment in the oven," Gran said, her eyes shining. Lara watched as Gran opened the oven door. A warm, cozy heat rushed out. Carefully, they put the tin with the dough inside. "Now we wait a little bit more," Gran told her, setting a timer. "How long until it turns into bread?" Lara asked, her nose pressed against the cool glass of the oven, trying to get a closer look. "About as long as one of our story times," Gran replied with a smile. While the bread baked, Gran and Lara sat down with a book. Lara listened, enchanted by the tale, but part of her mind stayed with the bread, wondering how it was changing. Suddenly, the timer dinged. It was time. They hurried to the kitchen. Gran opened the oven, and out came a delicious smell, like warm, sunny mornings at Gran's house. But when they looked at the bread, Lara's smile turned into a frown. The bread hadn't risen properly. It was too flat. "Oh no," Lara whispered, feeling her heart sink. "Our bread didn't work." Gran wrapped her in a hug. "Sometimes baking teaches us patience and surprises. Let's see what we can do," Gran said, her voice full of hope. Part 3 was about facing a little bump in their baking journey. Would they still find joy in their creation? Gran looked at the flat bread. and then at Lara, thinking hard. I have an idea, she said with a spark in her eyes. Our bread might be flat, but it can still be yummy. How about we make it into something else? Lara's frown slowly turned upside down. Like what? She asked, curious. We can turn it into a giant cookie bread, Gran suggested. Lara's eyes lit up. That sounds amazing. Gran found some chocolate chips and nuts in the cupboard. Let's sprinkle these on top and pop it back in the oven for a bit, she said. They decorated the flatbread together, turning it into a special treat. Lara felt a warm feeling in her heart, working side by side with Gran. The kitchen filled with a sweet, chocolatey aroma, and soon the timer dinged. They took out their creation, now transformed into something new and exciting. Lara couldn't believe how good it smelled. See, my dear, Gran said, cutting them each a slice. Sometimes things don't go as planned, but we can always turn them into something wonderful. They sat down to enjoy their giant cookie bread. It was crispy on the edges and soft in the middle. Lara thought it was the best surprise she had ever tasted. Part 4 was about turning a disappointment into a delicious victory, all thanks to Gran's clever thinking and their teamwork. As Lara and Gran enjoyed their unique treat, the sky outside turned pink and orange. It was getting late. This was the best day, Lara said, her mouth still full of cookie bread. Even better than if the bread had been perfect, Gran smiled, her eyes twinkling. That's because you put so much love into making it with me. They cleaned up the kitchen together, putting everything back in its place. Next time, we'll try a different recipe, Gran promised. And no matter what happens, we'll make it fun. Lara nodded, excited for their next baking day. Before bed, Gran read another story to Lara, this one about a magical baking adventure. As Lara listened, she realized that spending time with Gran, learning and laughing, was the real magic of the day. When the story ended, Lara gave Gran a big hug. Thank you, Gran, for everything. Thank you, my dear, for being such a wonderful baking partner, Gran said, hugging her back. As Lara drifted off to sleep that night, she dreamt of more baking days with Gran, each one filled with its own surprises and delights. Part 5 was not just the end of their baking day, but also a beginning of many more adventures to come, each one teaching Lara and Gran the joy of spending time together, no matter the outcome.
We hope you enjoyed this story. If you liked this video, please go ahead and push the like button. If you like the content and want to see more, please subscribe to our channel. Goodbye.